Here we are, Father Jeff, consecrated by holy orders.
Jonathan, consecrated by baptism.
How you doing, Jonathan? Good morning.
Good morning.
What's new and exciting? Anything? Nothing?
It's Friday.
Everything?
Friday. It's a Friday.
It is Friday. And today is the Feast of St. Augustine.
August 28th.
August 28th. We talked a little bit about Augustine yesterday and said we would get back to him today.
Yes.
But before we get to the saints, let's talk about the sinners. Let's talk about you, Jonathan.
I'm talking about myself. What do you want to know?
What do I want to know? Well, I guess that covers it.
What I'm doing this weekend, yes.
What are you doing this weekend, Jonathan?
I think we're driving down to Kansas City to go to IKEA.
What?
Yeah.
What? I don't understand.
IKEA?
I know what
It's
IKEA
a furniture
is.
store.
And you're going all the way to Kansas City to go to IKEA. Why?
We need furniture for our new house.
Oh, that's right. You're moving.
We're moving in 3-ish
Why
weeks.
are my comments not showing?
You gotta swipe right. Other way. There. Boom.
They keep disappearing, though.
Oh, because you have it landscape. You gotta...
Oh, for the love.
It's true.
You know, people,
Look, and there they are.
These-
in all
these-
their glory.
these computers, they drive me nuts.
Yeah, so we're going to Kansas City because right now they aren't shipping everything. You can't just
Okay.
get anything you want shipped.
Okay.
And so we just have to go.
Huh.
There's just a couple things.
You're going to pick up some meatballs while you're there?
No, there's
If you don't know about IKEA, IKEA is like a Scandinavian dealy bobber. It's a big Scandinavian warehouse
thing?
store, department-y
Maze.
thing. Yeah, it is kind of a maze. It's a one-way sort of deal. And they have furniture that you have to put together.
Yes.
And they sell meatballs because that's a Swedish delight.
Yeah, that's
It's a
pretty much...
Swedish delight. And they have, meatballs, and there are a few other things that people like are IKEA files.
Right.
They just love. There are people who love IKEA. Like, love IKEA. It's like, people who love Costco or
Right.
who love to go shopping
Shit.
at I don't know what, but it's kind of strange.
A little bit strange.
Yeah.
So we're not one of those people that love IKEA. We're just
Just
like,
go spend the day at IKEA.
Well, we needed a couple new end tables and some other things, and they get really expensive other places. But
Sure.
we will not be eating the meatballs because there is a restaurant down there called Unforked.
Unforked.
It's kind of a hipster type place. You would probably
Okay.
like it.
Yeah? What kind of food do they serve?
Tacos. But they call them untacos, I think, because it's not your typical taco. They're not Mexican by any means.
Okay.
They're
Very Tex-Mex and not even West-Mex.
No,
Very
not Mex at all.
Midwest-Mex. I
So
don't
bear with us.
understand.
It looks like we're coming back.
I don't understand
It
sometimes.
says we have an unstable connection.
I don't understand.
I don't understand. But Tilapia Tango, they've got a whole bunch of other great food options that are more, I'd say hipster, trendy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it is delicious.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. I haven't been to Kansas City too often. There's been a couple times I've been down there and gone around and seen the sights and enjoyed the whatever.
Sure. No, we haven't. I don't know much of Kansas City.
Isn't Kansas City, now this is my memory, isn't Kansas City like one of those cities that, other than like second to Rome, that has the most public fountains?
It is the
Does
city
that
of
sound-
fountains. That sounds about
That
right.
sounds familiar. Like running water and fountains everywhere, and fountains and water spouting everywhere.
I've heard something about that, but we haven't explored. I've never explored. So Genevieve's brother used to live there. His wife's family lived there, and so we've
Okay.
gone and visited them, and they now moved away. They all live in Wichita now, so we never went exploring there because
Sure.
we were just spending time with them, and so.
Sure.
But Unforked, it's so good.
All right, I'll take your word for it. So that's the trip for Saturday? Are you
Saturday,
staying the night?
no,
Are you staying overnight? Or are you
we're
coming
going
back?
early Saturday, coming back.
Okay, it's not that bad of a drive. It's about 3 hours, 2.5, 3 hours to
Too bad.
Yeah.
And there's some people that'll you pay them to go get it for you. It's like $75, and so
Like to make an IKEA run?
Yes, there's
Are you
people in
serious?
Omaha that do that.
These are the people who love IKEA.
Yeah.
And just have to go.
I guess if they get a big enough truck and you get enough orders,
I suppose you could make some money.
The gas money, I mean, you're not making a lot with $75.
Yeah, well, you'd need to get some. But if you love doing it, it's like, ooh, I get to go to IKEA again.
Maybe they just really want to go to Unforked.
Or buy their meatballs. I don't know. Well, excellent. I don't think. Just kind of having a normal week.
Pretty boring. You do have to masks? No weddings or anything?
Like usual. No, it's kind of normal for me. So we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds. Perhaps.
Bold statement.
It is in Western Christianity. Saint Augustine is probably second only to Saint Paul, which is amazing because Saint Paul defines Christianity in the New Testament.
Oh yes.
I mean, he unfolded he wrote before any of the Gospels were written. So most of the New Testament was influenced by St. Paul. And Augustine is probably second to him in influencing how we articulate the faith, speak about the faith, express the faith,
which
all
is
of these
kind
things.
Of nuts because
I know he was not. Well, but it's nuts and it's not nuts because as we were talking yesterday, Augustine was this big playboy sinner, does a 180.
He's probably an all or nothing type guy.
All or not, I think so.
As
was Saint.
God, literally,
all
my
in.
God.
I'm going to choose you. I'm going to use what I need to do.
So, how do you feel about Saint Augustine?
No, that's not the appropriate pronunciation.
I'm with you.
we do say in Florida we call it Saint Augustine, Florida. I don't know if that's an Englishism or what, but it really is Saint Augustine. Augustine is how we would. Although I suppose like in the other languages, Augustino, so it sounds like Augustine when you bring it into English. So I don't know. Saint Augustine of Hippo.
Of Hippo.
Yeah, which is African.
That's how a theology professor in
Hippo?
high school said it. He was Hispanic. Is Hispanic.
Augustino of Hippo. Hippo. Yeah. So this guy, he famous book, The Confessions.
Yes.
A lot of any kind of Western civilization or college ethics or philosophy or introduction to philosophy or something like that. Often it's required reading just because it is such a Western classic of this man's conversion. He goes through his journey and that moment when he realizes, I have been a terrible person and I've been searching all over this world and creation, literally searching all over creation, trying to find happiness and sinking myself into all the things of the world.
Yes.
And never finding happiness. Until I found you, God. And then he has this beautiful statement, late have I loved you, beauty ever ancient, beauty ever new. Late have I loved you. You were there, screaming at me, and I had my fingers in my ears, and yet you didn't let me go. And that just, like, he fell in love with God, realizing how much God loved him.
Well, then he recognized maybe even what led to all of the playboy lifestyle of, my heart is restless until it rests in thee, Lord.
Another famous statement.
And so and I think that is all of our plights, that we look for that comfort and look for the joy in these worldly things. And it's something that I think that's just part of the human condition is we don't know what to satiate ourselves And so, like, we're empty because we are not complete until we're fully in communion with God,
right?
Which doesn't happen until we're in heaven.
Right. We feel the emptiness. Every one of us feels the emptiness. We know the vacuum within, and we're created purposefully that way. That we are created specifically like a donut, and I've used this with kids before in describing how God makes us. Fill that emptiness completely. And when we don't realize that, we go looking for everything else. So I'm going to fill that with partying. I'm going to fill that with drugs. I'm going to fill that with alcohol. I'm going to fill it with sex. I'm going to fill it with laziness or Netflix or whatever. And it satisfies for a while.
It distracts.
Yeah, I mean, it tickles the inside. Mm-hmm. And then when it stops, we got nothing.
Absolutely nothing.
I got nothing. I'm still empty. Now I've got this big emptiness again. Because none of that really fit.
Mm-hmm.
And when it doesn't satisfy, we go looking for even more. Or we get depressed and we, completely shut down or whatever. And Augustine's example is, no, it's God. Only God fills that interior hole. And once you get filled, once you're full of God, then we're satisfied and we can be moved less by the things of the world.
You have new life.
Resurrection. That internal life that wants to be expressed outwardly. Which leads us to today's topic of the Screwtape Letters.
It does.
So we're in chapter 3, letter number 3, I believe. Letter 3 of the Screwtape Letters that's where we've been going these past couple days if you've not been with us. And this chapter, or this letter 3, so if we just recap once again, our patient, he's kind of the object or the subject of these writings, he's just become Christian,
mm-hmm.
and he's been baptized, and he's an adult man, and we find out in this letter that he shares a home with his mother, right, who apparently is older. She struggles with some arthritis and things like that. Yep. We pull that out from the reading. And so the Screwtape is trying to convince Wormwood, the tempting demon, how to drive a wedge between this relationship.
Right.
Like, there are ways that whenever two people live together, they start to grate on one another. And God allows that grating on each other because it kind of wears us down, rubs off the rough edges, and smooths you out and makes you holy.
Yeah, the hope is iron sharpens iron.
Yeah, that's a good way to say it.
Iron sharpening iron.
Yeah.
The devil wants it to chip away
and get all, fighting and nasty and sharpened and get the dander up. And
yeah.
So rather than letting this other person be a means of holiness, the other person becomes a means of temptation. And so that's kind of where this letter 3 goes. Let's drive the wedge between this guy and his mom. So we start out and we hear about this other character, and it's not really important that you know these other characters on the sidelines other than to identify who they are. So he says, keep in close touch with our colleague Glubos, who is in charge of the mother. So just as Wormwood is the tempting demon for this guy, the patient, Glubos is the tempting demon of the mother.
It took me a while to figure that out, because I saw Glubos and you have to read it so slowly.
You skimmed, didn't you, John?
I was skimming at that point because I was like, I want to get into the meat of it, and I wasn't getting into the meat of it, and it's, well, who the heck is Glubos? And then I just kept going because I was like, if it's important, I'll find out.
Yeah, Screwtape is basically saying that as demons, you want to team up and pummel these people from both sides. So you're going to find out from him how he's tempting. He's working on the mother, and you're going to work on the son, and you're going to point them at each other and let them destroy one another.
Wonderful.
So he gives four particular temptations that I think any one of us who are in a relationship with someone else, If you're living at home, parents, brothers and sisters, spouses, kids, good friends that you might have a strong relationship with, people that you work with closely, any relationship, I think there's going to be things in here
if
that
you
you
spend
hear.
any kind of time with someone, some of these things will pop up.
You're
If
gonna
not
be
all
like,
of
oh
them.
wow, that sounds familiar. I've done that.
Yes.
Temptation number 1. And then he kindly numbers these in here,
He
so
does.
it makes it easy. So, temptation number 1, he wants to separate, I think, when I read this, faith, what's going on inside, from works, what happens
Yes.
on the outside. So the temptation is keep his conversion as something internal. Your spiritual life is your spiritual life. It's something within you. So your guy is going to be examining his conscience. He's going to be reflecting upon his journey in conversion, his journey towards God, and that's, let him have that, and never let him kind of step outside of himself and actually look at himself.
Right. Don't let him actually see how he's living. Think of what's happening in his spirit, in that mental state.
Right. That I've got this, like, I am such a holy and devout person, and then he doesn't live that on the outside. So we kind of describe that he examines himself, but he never really sees who he is.
Right.
So he thinks himself to be pious and holy and devotional, and then yet everyone else looks at him and says, boy, that guy is a crab apple.
Right.
Or,
so even after examining himself for a whole hour, something that anyone who knew him for 3 minutes would be able to say, oh, yeah, he's a real crabby guy.
Yeah. And I think we've fallen into this. We know people who are of this mindset that they think so highly of themselves that when they look at themselves, when we look at ourselves, I see maybe some faults or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I see what I'm good at, but I may not see sometimes those obvious ones because they're just so much a part of me that I've stopped seeing them.
Right. Very much so. The parable of the Splinter.
Yeah, as we were talking about yesterday too,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the same thing. We just can't see this thing that's sticking out of my eye because I've just gotten used to it. It's just there. You've learned to live with it. I mean, how many people maybe have aches or pains or whatever, and you just start accommodating them and living with them, and you never really do anything about them, and you stop noticing it after a while because it's like, well, that's normal.
Right.
That's normal. It's normal to have that toothache. Is it? It's normal to have that back pain. Is it? But we get used to it.
Nothing a couple Advil doesn't take care of.
So temptation number 1, look at yourself from the inside and don't look at yourself from the outside.
Blinded to the outer.
Exactly. Temptation number 2. So he says, these people probably love each other, and he's going to pray for his mom, and you're not going to be able to keep him from praying for her. But again, why don't you keep him praying for her soul and not actually for who she totally is?
Right.
Like, pick something about her. Oh, my mom, she's so slow to be generous, or she's so dim-witted in her knowledge of Jesus Christ, or whatever. I just need to pray that she will have this great conversion that I've had, or that she will find God, or whatever.
Right. Some annoyance that he finds in her.
Exactly.
Isn't necessarily actually praying for her.
Yeah, it's like he's picked something of her that might be the teeniest, tiniest little thing, and again, finding that little splinter. And so what he ends up doing is he tries to diagnose her soul. Like, right. I know my mom, I know this woman I've lived with, she's got this, and this. And he's never had a conversation with her about those things, never really dug into it. Why? Like, let's just say she She flies off the handle and is angry. Like she gets angry a lot.
Quick
Let's
temper.
just say that. Quick temper. Let's say she's got a quick temper. So I pray for her that, all she needs to have is patience.
Yeah.
So I'm praying for this woman who has no patience. And little do I really know that maybe her quick temper is because she, at some point in her life, was deeply hurt when she opened herself up in vulnerability. And so it's not that she has no patience, but maybe it's because she lives in fear. Oh. And so I'm praying for a woman that she will have patience when really she needs to be healed of a fear or a hurt. So I'm praying for someone that doesn't exist. My imaginary image of this woman.
Right. And that happens to us all the time.
All the time.
And it goes both ways, whether it's some deficiency that you're praying for someone, or sometimes we're just like, oh, what a great saintly person this is.
Sure.
That this is how, we perceive and think so highly of some people where we put people up on a pedestal that really probably shouldn't be there because we're all equal. There's a great example of true equality, that we are all equal and no one is on a pedestal or anything else.
Or I think maybe an example that everyone has had, or certainly knows someone who's been in this situation, is when you fall in love with the idea of someone.
Yes.
Rather than the someone.
Actually getting to know them?
Yeah. I love my perfect image of you, and so I ignore all of those things that should be warning flags, should be red flags. And so I fall in love with this idea, and I think, that will change, and then 10 years into marriage, it hasn't changed. Right. You are not the idea that I married. Who the heck are you?
Yeah, working with college students and high school students, a lot of times the dating talks are, this person that you love, quote unquote, have you actually had a conversation with them?
Yeah.
Is one of the first things they say, because especially when you're young and hormones are going, you build this person up that you've seen and maybe had a conversation with. This happens a lot with celebrities or people we see on TV, that athletes, where you build them up, you're like, oh man, that's such a good person. You see the great things, and then some scandal comes out and it shatters. You're so devastated because, I thought he was such a great person.
You fall in love with falling in love. You love being in a relationship, and it really doesn't matter who that other person is. And so again, it's separating what's inside from the reality out here. Like there's something happening out here, and there's something happening in here, and those are two different things. And so the temptation is keep them two different things, and that will drive them further apart. Temptation number 3. This one I thought was hilarious because it's all about assumption, and we all know that famous saying about assumption. Whenever you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. Ha 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 ha. But it's so true. And this paragraph, temptation number 3, is all about assumption. Because it's that when you live together, when you know someone so well, there's all these little things that happen that maybe kind of annoy me, and I never really deal with.
Right.
Or I let it get under my skin.
And it's something that's a you problem. Not a lot of times it's something, it's like, Father Jeff, I don't like it when you put your mug that way instead of the other way.
Right.
Why? I don't know. It just bothers me.
Yeah, and the fact that you keep doing it, you're doing it on purpose just to get under my skin. And that's, I think, sometimes what we do. That he knows that annoys me when he smacks his lips like that at the dinner table.
Right.
When she doesn't, do this or that thing. They know that annoys me, and they do it anyway.
If you have a spouse and have been married longer than a few months,
you understand this.
You understand it. And it's something that if you take a second to just step back and reason, you're like, well, that's probably not the case.
Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm the one that has the problem. Maybe it's not that person that I can't stand the way they squeeze the toothpaste out of the toothpaste tube, or I can't stand the way leave up or put down the toilet lid or whatever
the
the
stuff
heck.
on the bathroom counter, or leave things in the kitchen.
Are we getting a picture of the interior life of the Sanchez Hidalgo household?
Maybe. I don't know. There's things that Genevieve does that annoy me, but...
Let's talk about that, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Let's talk about all the things and ways Genevieve annoys you.
All right. See, I am bad with the dishes, but she is bad with the pots and pans. So this is things in the kitchen. It's different things that bother each of us in a different manner.
Sure.
And so if there's pots and pans that are dirty, I don't want them in the sink, because if there's something in the sink, I'm not going to wash dishes.
I see.
Because it's in the way.
So now it's her fault.
Pretty much.
This is how it works.
That's how it works.
These little things, and then assumptions can be deadly.
That she knows I don't like those pots and pans in the sink
She's
with
doing
water
it
in them.
just to get
with the water in it. Oof.
Just to get under my skin. Okay, temptation number 4. And this is the thing that it's kind of related to that, but it really is about not listening to what's actually happening. So he talks about how these, when those two get into an argument, when the son and his mother get into an argument, they don't listen to the words. It's like, that's what I'm saying to you is this, and you interpret because of the tone or because of the gesture or because of the facial expression, you interpret it to mean something else. But yet, when I say something with a tone or with whatever, I want you to just hear my words, and so we hold a double standard.
Right.
I'm just listening to your words, and this is what you are saying. But I'm really interpreting your tone and your attitude or whatever.
You need to calm down.
Jonathan, why would you talk to me like that?
That's how it works.
Yeah. So this is a good follow-up to something we talked about in chapter 1 when we talked about argument. Mm-hmm. That a true argument is a rational exploration of the truth of something.
Level-headed.
An argument. When you make an argument to the judge, you argue your case. It is not that I'm not angry. Argument does not imply anger.
Right.
Argument implies, let's look at the facts, let's lay them out, and come to a rational conclusion. This is the opposite. This 4th temptation is the opposite of a rational argument. This is an irrational, emotion-driven argument. That I'm not listening to your words, I'm hearing your voice, and I'm hearing your tone, and I'm letting all of that passion and emotion
get
in.
your face.
All of that stuff. So it doesn't matter what you're saying to me, because I really am having a different kind of argument with you. It's a fight. It's not an argument, it's a fight. And those are two different things.
A verbal fight.
To have an argument and to fight are two different things. People should argue all the time, because that's where it clarifies things. Like, I don't understand what you're doing. Explain that to me. Help me understand. Help me see what you are seeing. Help me hear what you are hearing. That's an argument that is leading to resolution.
Right.
But I want it this way, and by God, if you don't do it this way, I'm going to dig my heels in until it happens. That's a fight. I'm not listening anymore.
Because there's no compromise. You're not actually willing to work, sacrifice, compromise, any of that stuff.
Exactly. So then you just get set off on whatever. Because now I no longer respect you enough to actually listen, hear, see you as you are. So all 4 of these temptations really are separating the internal from the external. Who you really are and who I perceive you to be become two separate things. I think Archbishop Fulton Sheen said at one time, and we talked about this on the program, that he's not met someone who truly hates the Catholic faith, but he's met all kinds of people who hate their perception of the Catholic faith.
Right.
What they think the Catholic faith is, because they haven't really gotten to know it. And I think that happens a lot with people too. People you really probably wouldn't hate this person, but you hate the image of the person that you've created.
Right. Oh, I know that type of person. And
Yeah,
you
yeah.
categorize where no two people are alike. And yes, there's similarities and different temperaments and things like that, but just because you met one does not mean you met all of them.
Absolutely.
And at the heart of it, most people are generally likable.
Most people, most of the time.
Yes.
Most people, most of the time. And there's going to be personalities that don't click.